Hello and welcome to Backstage Chatter, a Segal Center podcast. I'm Gabriella Saltiel, Artistic and Executive Associate, and the producer of BSC. Sound editing is by Daniel Moskovich. On this episode of Backstage Chatter, we go behind the scenes of Clue on stage with actor Tamara Brown, who plays the delightfully eccentric Mrs. Peacock, and Associate Director Zach Counsil, a seasoned Clue veteran who has worked on numerous productions of the play across the country. Our podcast is hosted by the incomparable Sarah Deshaies.
Welcome to Backstage Chatter. I'm your host, Sarah Deshaies. You are cordially invited to join us for a deadly dinner at the Segal Center. We're serving slapstick with a side of secrets, mystery with an entree of blackmail, and murder with a smoking gun. Cluedo the Mystery board game was first cooked up by an English worker/musician. He was stuck at home during the air raids in Birmingham in World War II. Inspired by murder mystery parlor games and popular detective fiction, Anthony Pratt devised a board game whodunit. He and his wife, Elva, would patent the game after the war. Players incarnate color-coded guests at a dinner party where the host, Mr. Body, has been murdered. They take turns at making accusations, the suspect, the murder weapon, the room where it happened, until someone lands on the right formula, like Professor Plum in the library with the rope. The game, now owned by Hasbro in the United States and known here as Clue, is a favorite of family game nights. It has also spanned TV shows and video games and 1985 films starring Tim Curry as Mr. Body's butler, Wadsworth. It embellishes the story with elements of farce and comedy, and famously, the movie had several alternate endings, with theaters playing different versions. Years later, writer Sandy Rustin adapted Jonathan Lynn's screenplay for a production that debuted in 2017 at the Bucks County Playhouse in Pennsylvania. The fast-paced play preserves all the intrigue of a country house murder mystery with blackouts aplenty and twists and turns, keeping you on the edge of your seat. The Segal is concluding its season with this comedy based on a movie, based on a board game. The cast is richly stacked with Montreal talent, with faces both new and cherished to the Segal. Today, we're knocking on the door of Mr. Body's mansion for a preview of what's to come, with two suspects, members of the cast and crew. Our guest today, Tamara Brown, performs the role of the suspicious and regal Mrs. Peacock. Welcome.
Hello, it's good to be here. Good morning.
Tamara is an award-winning stage and screen actor, director, playwright, singer, and educator who has worked on stages across Canada and beyond. She performed at the Canadian premiere of De Kink in My Hair, the musical, at the National Arts Centre and Theatre Calgary, as well as the most recent 20th anniversary edition at Soul Pepper Theatre with TO Live and CBC Radio. She also performed in Adventures of a Black Girl in Search of God at the National Arts Centre with Black Theatre Workshop and Centaur Theatre. A force on the local scene, she is one of the co-founders of Montreal-based Metachroma Theatre. You might have also seen her as Myrna Landers in Three Pines, the television adaptation of Louise Penny's detective series. She has also appeared as Peggy Lillard in The Bull Type and Helix and 19-2. Tamara has lent her voice to video game projects like Avatar, Frontiers of Pandora, Assassin's Creed, and Outlast 2. She was last seen at the Segal in Inherit the Wind.
I sound so impressive. I love this for me. Thank you, Sarah.
I love that for you, too. Also joining us is Zach Counsil, Associate Director and Armorer. Hello, Zach.
Hello, Sarah.
I'm going to tell you now your story.
Excellent. Can't wait to hear it.
Hailing from Ottawa, Zach is an award-winning multidisciplinary artist. He acts, he directs, he performs magic and illusions. Zach has worked in classical, musical, and contemporary productions across Canada, including acting and directing credits for previous productions of Clue. Zach grew up in a dinner theater operated by his parents. Eddie May Mysteries is the longest-running producer of murder mystery dinner theater in the country. He performed in Bat Boy the Musical for Black Sheep Theatre, Cicadas at the National Arts Centre, and the 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee at Persephone Theatre in Saskatoon. He directed the 39 Steps at the St. Lawrence Shakespeare Festival. Similar vibes, I think, to Clue. Zach also works as a fight director. You might have seen his work for Black Theatre Workshop Productions, Vierge, and Pipeline. He leads classes and workshops and also works in special effects and makeup. This summer, Zach will be leading stage combat workshops and will then embark on a multi-city tour. He returns to the Segal Center after making his debut here in the musical Prom Queen. Welcome, Zach.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm so thrilled to be here.
I'm so thrilled to speak with both of you. Yeah. And just to get things started, I want to know how both of you entered the Clue universe. Is it board game night? Did you see the movie?
Do you want to go first, Zach?
Sure. I'm trying to remember, actually. I know what it was. So my introduction was when I was fresh out of theater school, and there was a company in Ottawa called Enigma Productions, which produced at this big 500-seat theater in Ottawa University. And they decided to do a production of Clue. But the cast they had assembled and the team that they had already got going were currently in our dinner theater doing another show. So they were hanging out in the green room talking about upcoming production schedules and things like that. And I happened to be stage managing or in the show with them. I can't remember, but I was in the green room and they were talking and I heard them and I heard Clue and it sounded like so much fun. So I just, casually said, if you folks need, anything like a stage manager or somebody to run and get coffees, or if you're auditioning, let me know. This sounds really fun. I'd love to be a part of it. And then they immediately said, oh, let's bring Zach in as Colonel Mustard. And so I played Colonel Mustard for the first time. That was my experience and introduction to Clue. And from there, I watched the movie relentlessly, and I got to know the pop culture lore and all of the lore of the franchise itself.
How many times have you seen the movie?
Oh, too countless.
Okay.
I bought it, and it's permanently on my YouTube movies now, and it just lives there. And throughout the process, I go back and watch it sometimes, just for vibes.
I think it's like a comfort thing.
And it's very much murder mystery farce is very much a world that you kind of have to remind yourself of the stakes constantly. It's like Hitchcockian suspense in that way, or psychological thriller. You have to. And so it has its own set of vibes, and they're unique to it. And it's hard to find that kind of vibe anywhere else, right? That farcical kind of high stakes, intense physical, but clever dialogue, intelligent writing. It's hard to find that elsewhere, and so it really is a niche thing. And it was fun to sort of jump in at that point and explore. And then I went on to do other versions of it too.
Well, you really
cool.
You fell into it, but you really
embraced it.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of in the vein of what I grew up with, which is like you take a bunch of people, you put them in an enclosed container, you amp the stakes so high that their stress levels are through the roof. Somebody gets murdered eventually, and then the fun ensues. Yeah, it's a recipe for chaos, and audiences, honestly, like that was the recipe for a long time with my folks' dinner theater, and I think it's a large part of their success.
Beautiful. Yeah. Tamara, what's your story?
So, I'll be dating myself a little, but I first was introduced to Clue through the game and playing that with my sister and my cousins. And when the movie came out, I was 10. And granted, the film is directed by a British director, and so the comedy is in a lot of the looks and the moments, and it's so rich. How much I absorbed of the film at the time is questionable, but what did stick with us all was the singing telegram girl. And we laughed. That was so hilarious. It became this game between all of us that at any given moment, no matter where you were, if you started singing, I am your singing telegram, whoever you aimed your finger gun at had to hit the deck. Endless jokes, very inappropriate at church or family picnics, but we loved to do it. And so it was fun to come back to it years later. It became a theater school cult classic, just enjoying the work of all the actors and actresses and realizing I've never really paid attention to the film before. And so it's lovely to come back to this production now after all these years, doing something light and frothy and really fun. It just calls back to the child and the absolute muppet that I truly am inside.
Is that my family members going to be coming to the show?
Yes,
Yeah.
my dad is going to be here tonight, and my family is showing up throughout the run. Unfortunately, my sister lives in Dallas, so she won't be able to join in the shenanigans in the lobby, but maybe she'll watch the podcast. Bang, Leanne.
I hope that she can see it and she could feel part of the vibe. And I know she'll be there with you in spirit, at least. I think the Telegram singing girl makes it from movie to stage, right?
Sure does.
Oh, it was quintessential. Yeah, we had to have that. It's been a fun process to sort of see like what translates from the film to the stage and what doesn't, and the placement of those gags is not necessarily the same as in the film. So like they might appear in a different spot in the play, but that's been really fun to see what works and what doesn't, and kind of sample from the buffet table of comedy.
Okay. Now, Zach and Tamara, I want to play a game with you guys because it is all about games. We've got a dice. You're going to roll.
Okay.
I've got questions associated with each number. So we're going to do we don't need an icebreaker, but I thought that'd be fun.
Yeah,
Who wants to go?
idea.
Let's go.
Who wants to go first?
Okay,
Tamara.
I'll do it. Very
go.
Aries. Of course, she'll go first.
The fates decide.
Okay, 2. Which room on the Clue board game would you spend time in or live in? Because I don't know about you, but I would look at the game and I would think, where would I live? Like as a kid, I'd be like, I could live in the conservatory.
Barricaded.
See, Tamara, as a child, would be in the kitchen because I want to be where all the goodies are. I absolutely want to find the snacks. But grown-up Tamara would be in the conservatory with the plants and fuddling around with all the flowers and sniffing things and getting in my witchy vibe.
Beautiful. All right, Zach, your turn.
I'm torn between.
You're gonna roll, yeah.
Right,
You
I get a
could
separate
get it
question.
too,
Oh,
yeah.
fantastic. Okay, here we go.
I'm so excited. It's a 2!
2. You've been thinking about this for a while. Any room on the board game, where would you live?
The tie. Okay, billiard room because the games, obviously. And then I don't know why, but the ballroom seems awfully attractive to me. A big open space, presumably large windows, lots of natural lighting. I could set up in there, maybe barricade the doors, protect myself from the other murderers in the house, and generally be okay. I'd probably need food and resources and things like that.
I
It's not a
absolutely forgot
great
about
strategy.
the peril. Good
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, I think I'd have to go billiard room, billiard or ballroom.
And you're a physical person in terms of like armor, fight sequences. You've got space to move in, right?
Oh yes, that's it. Maybe that's what I want.
Yeah.
I just need to be able to move. Yeah, conservatory is full of plants and lovely, but I can't move around in there.
All right, one more round, Tamara.
Okay,
Here we
she
go.
goes.
5.
Ooh.
Okay.
of
You want to
change.
kill Mr. Body. What is the perfect weapon to do it? I'm sorry, it's a little morbid. But,
It is. I see how typical. Ugh, am I betraying my gender? The first thing I thought of was poison. The first thing I thought of was poison. I mean,
not so much muss. No fuss, no muss.
You know, the couture. I can't mess up the couture. I don't have it in me to be like Mrs. White and like come at him swinging. You know, I talk a big game, but I am a lover, not a fighter.
Perfect answer. Zach?
Okay, here we go.
Let's see if you get a
Let's
5.
see if I roll another 5. Another do. A 2.
2. Let's roll again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you already had 2 answers there. You had 1. Okay.
Snake eye.
Number 1, the only one.
If you could play one of the characters, who would it be? And you've played them before, so it could be one that you loved or one that you'd like to.
I know who I would like a chance at playing, especially after doing this process, watching this particular actor in this role. I kind of fell in love with it a bit more than usual. I've played Colonel Mustard and I've played Wadsworth and I've directed the show. I would love an opportunity to sink my teeth into Green.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Accident prone, awkward, socially inept, and then let that take off.
And the
I'm so
physicality of
juicy.
it. The physicality of it.
Yeah, and the physicality, I mean, that's an opportunity for me to just, crash through tables and fly through things and do all sorts of chaotic stuff. I
And
think
then
that would be
Kaiser
really fun.
Sose it at the end.
Oh, yeah, that's it, yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for playing my game.
That was
fun.
I like that game.
Now to the serious stuff. No kidding. Tamara, tell me about your role and in incarnating Mrs. Peacock. Because it's so interesting. The characters really get fleshed out here compared to what the game experience is. The movie really brings it to life. Tell us about her.
It's an interesting thing. My initial thoughts about Mrs. Peacock were very bifurcated. There's an interpretation that is quite inspired by Eileen Brennan and, just taking the text at face value and what you imagine for the time historically. But then I consider my own body and, what does my own body, or my own culture look like in a role like that? And it's interesting, historically speaking, I didn't have to go very far. I can look to my own family history in the West Indies to, oh gosh, this sounds like a brag and it's not meant to, but, old families, old wealthy families dealing with plantations and the like. There's a whole history of, colonial relations in the West Indies that can come into play with how a woman in my body might find herself in the United States in the 50s as the wife of a high-powered senator, that she's more or less purchased for herself. And so took a big swing and decided, well, what happens if I lean into some of my own family culture and history to create this character? And what's interesting is, and the more specific any character is, the more universal it tends to be as well. And there's a fun music and dimension to Mrs. Peacock being from Trinidad and Tobago that was an unexpected surprise, I think, for all of us, for myself and Lisa. And we just had to see where it led us. And it's brought a very interesting energy and dimension and understanding to the role. The whole point, off of the top, the conceit is to seek out who are the un-American Americans. And, in this current climate, this is a question, who are true patriots, who are true people of this country, and where do immigrants fit into that, And I don't think it was ever an intention to make a political commentary, but I guess I can't help being in the body that I am, and whether I will or no, if I'm not in a role that is specifically designated for a person of my ethnicity, the question comes, like, what's my brown body doing there in the stage? And there's great potential to dig out there. There's great representation that is not virtue signaling, but the fact of the matter is borders have always been porous. We have always mixed it up. People get around. And so it's fun to open up that look into Clue. I hope audiences have fun and see themselves.
It sounds like you're truly putting the Tamara Brown stamp on it.
You gotta go big or go home. Oh my goodness. I finally get to do comedy. Let's do it my way.
And important to note that, it's set in the States. It's meant to be at a mansion in New England. So it's not the British romp that people might be expecting based on where the game is from and what they might have seen before or played the games, the video games. So she's a high-powered woman who's kind of fought to where she got to where she is. Every person who shows up is someone who has a secret to protect. How does Mrs. Peacock protect herself?
I would say that despite her British colonial and French colonial upbringing, there's a lot of pressure and nerves that come from trying to pull political strings in a country where she's not born. And poor Mrs. Peacock, she drinks. She drinks a lot. She has very high anxiety. She's a drinker, poor dear. If anybody's having that struggle, you can certainly get help. I encourage you to drink water. As an ex-drinker myself, it's an interesting trip back. I absolutely understand the impulse to, under high pressure, try to relax and present yourself as normal. But I think also she uses her dottiness and battiness as a great cover to scheme. We often don't consider the older women in our entourage and what is going on behind the surface, and I think she can use that to her advantage.
Very quickly, the physicality of it. I'm really excited to see how everyone's going to be looking with costuming, makeup, but what do we see at the beginning from Mrs. Peacock?
What we see with Mrs. Peacock is a woman who is very vain, a woman who cultivates her image so very carefully to establish her ranking, her place in the pecking order, particularly for the time that she's a part of. I am a fair-skinned, white-adjacent-looking woman, and so leading with money and power and influence and glamour and style is certainly an interesting way. It is a tool of seduction. It is a tool of maneuvering. When you don't have physical power, you can use your economic power. All weapons are good weapons for a woman in a patriarchal world. And so if everybody is there at a dinner party, Mrs. White is ready for the inaugural ball, and she will let you know exactly who you are dealing with and how she expects to be treated. It's a pity she undermines it her own doggone self. Drinking.
Mrs. Peacock.
Mrs. Peacock.
Yes.
Sorry, not me. Not me. I'm a floppy muffet. This is not my truth, but yes.
Zach, you're kind of our clue expert veteran. So obviously the story is more embellished than what the board game is. When the curtain rises, what's the story?
The story, in its nutshell, is about 6 people who have been or who are being extorted and blackmailed and forced into a corner, and what happens when people get pushed past their limit. That's ultimately what the story is about. Yeah.
Do we get greeted by Mr. Body at first?
No, Mr. Body is a bit of an enigma. So Mr. Body, of course, from the game is the figure that lies in the center of the board game, the murder victim. But in our version, he is a full-fledged character with real objectives and motivations, and they are sinister. So it's delightful to watch him come out and reap chaos on the stage and get everything nice, shake up that snow globe before we have the big murder and everything goes wild.
I like that, the snow globe.
Right? Get all the pieces up into the air before we do something chaotic.
Tell us about your role as an armorer. What do you do?
So the role of the armorer, I am responsible for all of the firearm safety on set. That includes we use a couple of blank firing guns in the show, and then we use a whole bunch of other non-firing guns for police and things like that. So I am responsible for maintaining the equipment, for cleaning it, and making sure it operates mechanically properly. I act as liaison between the production departments and the actors. I handle the weapons between the actors using them and them going back into whatever locked storage situation we have. And I'm basically in charge of safety, much like the fight direction title. It's a safety gig. So I show the gun to the actors. If we're just rehearsing and we're not going to be firing off blanks, then I show the chambers empty. I make sure they see that there's no blanks in the gun. There's nothing going to go off in their hands, all of that, before I put it in their hands. When they're done with it, if, let's say, we've been firing that day, I'll take it from them, I'll unload it, I'll clean it out, and load it back up so we can go again. Yeah. All duties, and then I come up with choreography. This kind of bleeds into my fight direction gig, but I come up with the choreography associated around the fights of the gun, the handling of the gun, how the guns are treated, all that kind of stuff. Because they are pyrotechnic devices.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The fact that it's still a comedy and it's really fast paced, does that change the nature of the choreography that you have to bring to the table? That, a character like Mrs. Peacock may
Yeah.
not have used a gun before and might be fumbling or bumbling, or I'm thinking of Reverend Green, who's more
Yes.
accident prone. Like,
Right.
you have to bring that character detail. This is not like Mission Impossible, where
No,
everyone knows what they're doing.
That's right. Yeah, you're not dealing with John Wicks and CIA agents and people who really know what they're doing. Although, there are one or two of them in there. But you'll notice certain things with, in particular, the gun, but also the other weapons, which I've kind of been liaising with a bit, like the dagger, when Peacock holds the dagger. Whether or not it's intentional, whether or not it's truthful, she holds the dagger in a way that makes her look non-threatening. Like, I wouldn't know how to use this if my life depended on it. It's up to you, the audience, to decide if that's real or if that's a red herring. But same with the gun. You'll notice when the gun first comes out, it is held upside down and rather oddly. Whether or not Professor Plum has held a revolver before, or whether he is, just putting on a face, I couldn't be a murderer. It's up to you, the audience, to decide. But we have a lot of fun coming up with that kind of stuff as part of Fight Direction. You're always coming at it from a world building and a character building place. So you try and give physical choreography that motivates and further enhances the existing stories between characters and relationships between characters, as opposed to trying to enforce something foreign into a scenario that, maybe doesn't work as well.
I'm wondering, with your experience as a performer and the fact that this is kind of like the métier for your family, does that add to your experience doing this because you have that acting background?
I think it allows me to liaise between artists and production department. I fit in a lot of places, so I can talk to the design team in their language. I can talk to the lighting people. I can talk to the sound people. I can talk to the set people. Then I can liaise with the actors. I think my experience as an actor is probably influencing my craft as a director, fight director, intimacy coordinator. The idea being that how I would want to be approached as a performer doing this work, and what I find the most useful as a performer doing the work, is kind of how I try and focus my direction. Yeah.
Beautiful. Tamara, for you, you have a lot of acting experience, but I'm not sure if you've been in an experience quite like this on stage, where there's so many props and so many weapons. Is that new for you, or?
It is definitely a busier experience. For better or worse, a lot of the stage experience I have, with the exception of the theater for young audiences, has been quite serious in tone and very much dealing with social issues. So coming into something like this, it's a lot of choreography, it's a lot of moving pieces, and it uses different aspects of my brain. Something that I learned working in a previous production of Adventures of a Black Girl in Search of God. There was a way of approaching the movement, the acting, and the singing that was from an African perspective, as opposed to the Western way of training, which was very specialized, and you compartmentalize. Here's where my acting brain lives, here's my dancing brain, here's my singing brain, and then when you have musicals, this part of my brain is using this, whereas a lot of the disciplines happen at the same time interchangeably. So if I'm singing a set of notes and dancing to polyrhythms, there's a point where your body just needs to learn something, and you trust that to go, and you keep your brain and awareness around you operating at that level, and your body goes there. So there's something of that technique that has to happen, because there are 6 to 9 other people on stage at any given moment with, many, many props, a whole lot of intrigue. Mrs. Peacock has this wonderful Dungeons and Dragons-esque purse bag of beholding, out of which anything can seem to come out of. It'll be astounding, the many things that go in and come out of her purse. And it's a wonderful challenge, a wonderful reminder to stay present. My colleagues are my saving grace every time. If you ever get lost, you just have to look at somebody and instantly you know where you are. It's an absolute treat working with such a fine, intelligent, experienced cast.
Yeah, tell me about the cast because we've got a lot of wonderful local talent. Felicia Schulman, Marcel Genet, some people making their debuts as well. What has that been like? That so many people are rooted in the city and are familiar to audiences here. What's that been like?
It's a real treat. The English acting community in Montreal is certainly a smaller, a tighter community. And we tend to work in a lot of different disciplines. It's the nature of the game, I guess, in Canada. And so we often go to support each other's work, to see each other on stage, or we'll find each other on set, or in studio voice booths. And so finding ourselves together on a production, there's some people I've known for years, like Felicia or Al. It's amazing to finally be on stage with them. The last time I acted with Marcel was exactly 15 years ago at the Segal in Inherit the Wind. And then we find ourselves together in this circumstance. Altogether, it's an absolute delight. I'm so grateful for this opportunity. I'm really excited for Segal audiences to really experience the richness of the talent that's here. Some deeply intelligent, incredibly funny people. It's just going to be a good time. We need a good time, a good laugh and release, and we're going to give it to you. You're going to get it, Montreal.
That's a guarantee from Tamara. Zach, you're Associate Director on the production. You've come in. I mean, have you counted how many other Clue productions you've been on?
This is my fourth one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Tamara was talking about the individual stamp she and Lisa decided on for Mrs. Peacock.
Yes.
I'm curious to know if there's anything about this show that is not drastically different. Obviously, we're half of the script, and there's still murder, and there's still the same characters. But anything that's particular about this production?
Well, there's still a rope and there's still a candlestick and all of that.
Oh, good. Oh,
yeah,
good.
The quintessentials are still there. This production has easily, in the three other productions that I have done, the nicest set I have ever worked on. Segal is renowned for their design. They really do good work that way and hire incredible artists. And our set designer, Brian, and their entire team at the Segal, Joe, all the carps, all the techs, all the lighting team, everybody have assembled this gorgeous looking playground for us to run and fly and jump and, slam doors. If you're familiar with farce, you know farce loves doors. So when you walk into a theater that's doing a farce, the hope is that there's a whole bunch of doors. This one has all the doors. It has the most doors of any farce that's ever farced. It's fantastic. And then we create more doors when the walls with the doors open to allow for the rooms to come in and out. Yeah. It's a fascinating, amazingly engineered piece of tech, the set, that has been designed within an inch of its life. When I tell you that everything is so mechanically precise, so very honed to a precise head that it is it's a magical trick to see it happening. It's almost like stage illusion.
It's truly worth the price of admission just to walk into the theater. Once you get that first look of the cast on the stage, that is worth the cost of admission alone before anybody begins to open their mouths. So excited for audiences to get to see the real love and passion and investment from every member on the team. Everybody is breaking their backs to give you the very best. We're so excited about this work. There's not a single person who hasn't invested their all to make every moment perfect for you.
Yeah, we have this nice moment where the guests arrive off the top of the show, and so we get to see each of the characters in sort of a tableau-esque moment before we start the action on the stage proper. And so we have Colonel Mustard arrive, and then Miss White, Mrs. Peacock, and each of the characters receives their own moment as they walk in. We see them in the full glory of their costume, lit by Julien Sonoyo's brilliant lights, and on Brian's set, and everything just, oh wow, and the world starts to bleed off the stage and into the audience, and we become the eighth guest of Body Manor and become swept up in it and get to know all of our suspects and our dinner guests, and before the real chaos ensues. Yeah, it's a real treat. Visually, it's a real treat. I've done versions of this show with bigger sets, and I've done smaller versions with really condensed, minimal sets. And this is unlike anything you've seen before. It's truly incredible.
Silly question.
Yeah.
With so much changing on stage, because there's things that are shifting around and moving, and then you said doors.
Everywhere.
When you're backstage, you're making sure everyone's got the right gun that they need and that everything is safe. You're probably entering,
Fanning myself
exiting.
furiously, drinking water,
So
stretching my
Dodging
back.
wagons, dodging actors. Yeah.
how does the cast and crew stay on top of things when there's so much action going on set?
What a team.
Donnie Bowes, the artistic director of Upper Canada Playhouse, used to have an expression, because they do a lot of farce as part of the programming. And one of the things he used to be fond of saying to the media on press day was, the real show is backstage, which is very true for this. If it wasn't for the fact that the characters spend the majority of their time on stage with us, you'd have a much more entertaining show backstage if you threw some cameras back there, because people are flying in and out of doors. Costumes are catching on doorknobs, on set pieces. Wagons are flying in. These are heavy things. There's a fly system. Chandeliers are going in and out. Lights are coming on and off. Blackouts happening. Gunshots happening. It's madness at all times. And so the tracks backstage have to be as clear and precise as the engineering of the set and the precision of the lights, because the slightest difference and somebody catches their fingers in a door, somebody, gets clipped by a technician or a costume or a quick changer or a fly rigger running by in a moment to try and make their cue. Somebody else comes around the corner, with a bunch of parcels, and there's a lot happening. It's a lot like a very busy kitchen. If you've ever seen that, just people flying in and out, servers, dishwashers, busboys, everybody going, chefs. And so there's a ton of traffic and a lot going on. And so you really have to be careful, because there's a lot that can happen that could go wrong.
Right. Okay. Tamara, what's that like for you when you're waiting for your cue? Like, all this is going on, but you have to also, you've got your lines, you're in character. Like, but when you go off stage, it's not calm. It's not always calm.
It truly isn't. It's so funny. Like, thank goodness the lines are the very base. It's the easiest part of what I have to do.
Interesting. Okay.
Honestly, it's from there that you know where to go and what to do. I think the challenges, the technical challenges that I encounter as an actor are very akin to some of the character challenges of such a fussy, grand woman. She's beautiful and flowing, but she's always in peril. If she doesn't move precisely, everything will stick to her. She'll get caught everywhere. She's constantly needing to manage herself and arrange herself wherever she is. And it really does feed into that fluttery, bird-like quality of Mrs. Peacock and feeds into that vanity. So, backstage is a wonderful opportunity to readjust, tuck body parts back into costumes where they need to be, hairpins, and I'm joking. This is absolutely PG-12, nothing to worry about. Backstage is it's a beautiful moment to fan myself furiously, make eye contact with one of the stage management people going by, blow them a kiss, and keep it pushing. Get back out there and give the people what they need.
Is there a conversation around the stamina needed to be a crew member and a cast member on something like this?
Do we talk about it? I think we are all about it.
Okay.
I mean, it
It goes
it's physical work
unsaid,
to do.
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge part of it for sure. I think the actors found out very early on in the process that this was going to be demanding because of the choreography, the track, the set, all of it. But then we have stagehands, our stage management team running things backstage, as well as the rest of the moving crew. These wagons that they're flying in and out, these are 800,000 pound wagons that they are pushing in and out. And so anytime there's movement on the set, that's not mechanical usually. That's a person. So it really has been hard physically on the crew. And so we are, as part of our process, incorporating as much TLC for them as possible because they really make the show go.
And I think it bears mentioning as well. Theater is a very physical, very athletic medium, but I do not want to give the impression that there is not concern or consideration of accessibility and taking people where they are at. This cast is deliberately not, we're not all in our 20s. You know, it is deliberate. The ages and the bodies and the people who have been cast and included into this role. I am the age that I am, and I have the limitations and abilities that I have. And so it's been also a really fascinating, it's a great dimension of incorporating our own physical limitations or abilities into the role. They also shape the characters, and these are great challenges. I think this is something really important to keep considering on stages, you know, questions of accessibility, the bodies we want to see, the different abilities we want to see. Can we still be entertained? We surely can. And it is absolutely happening. Now, you know, are the girlies going to the spa when it's done? Are we getting physio? Are we getting massages? Am I at the Schwitz? Surely, absolutely. Louise, Beatrice, all of their names, definitely. Yes.
I wish that for you. You deserve that.
Goodness, it's an awesome thing. Thank goodness to all of the estheticians and body workers out there. You're the real
And that was
heroes.
something that was really important to Lisa and Luciana, the season producer, and everybody at the Segal was like, this is a vehicle for comedic actors. And although there are archetypes in the characters that you traditionally cast so-and-so this way and whatever, it's fun to do variants on those. For example, we have a Trinidadian peacock. I've never seen that in all the versions of the show that I have seen and done. Felicia Schulman, traditionally a bit older than you might traditionally cast Miss Scarlet, but wonderful, represents this great new archetype of an older madam who's used to running her bordello and managing the young girls. So by making alternative kind of outside the box choices, you open up the world to wonderful and world building and character development.
It's certainly not out of line with what the game and the actual brand itself has been doing over the years. I mean, we've got Dr. Orchid. I mean, over the years, the characters, they do change and evolve to expand. There's a larger market. More people across the globe want to play and get involved. And we all want to participate in these wonderful things and see ourselves reflected back. It's the beautiful joy of going to stories.
That's so beautifully put by the both of you. I want to give not an Easter egg, but something for the audience today to look for. Is there an element, a costume, or an action that you're really proud of or that wows you that we can look for? And I can say that's Tamara's favorite thing or Zach's favorite thing.
Choosing is the difficult thing. It's not for lack of options because I'm going, oh, but I love that and that and that and that. And that's a nice moment. And, do you have one?
You know, the greatest moments for Mrs. Peacock happen in moments of utter failure. It's the clown moments. It is watching the devolution of a truly gorgeous and glorious silhouette. How many ways can we mess up her image of perfection? The theater gremlins get me real good every time. There's always a new challenge. What is my hat going to do today? Where did my cigarette fall? Oh, right down my bodice. I guess I'll get that out backstage, and that'll be fine. But there are all these wonderful gifts of the unexpected. When something happens that no one expects or plans for, it's this great opportunity to respond in the
Yeah.
moment. The audience is right there with you, and we get to find our ways out of these crazy situations. What happens when somebody's key piece of evidence falls out of their pocket? There becomes this gorgeous intrigue of a play within the play that for the eagle eye you get to enjoy.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, everywhere you look on the stage, there is story happening. There's a delightful morsel for you. We want nobody to go home hungry. This is a show that rewards repeat viewing.
I don't want to give too many of them away, but there are Easter eggs for fans of the film and people who play the game and whatnot. There's a ton of those, but I think one of the things that repeat viewers will enjoy is this show is designed from the ground up to be watched multiple times, just like the movie. I don't know if you remember, but when they released the film, they released alternative endings, multiple of them, so that you could go to see the film and you wouldn't know who done it. We do a similar thing with our finale, but it's all the little Easter eggs and little things. We do all the endings as much as we can, and there's some really fun stuff. If you watch all the way through and then you go back and watch again, knowing what you now know, you can find all sorts of really fun moments and things that are even funnier because you now understand the context for which they're happening. Mr. Green is a great example. He has, not to give too much away, but he has a finale scene where he produces all sorts of evidence from all these places, and that's a really fun one to see for the first time for the laughs, and then go back and watch the magic of the artistry and the sleight of hand, the manipulation, the prop and pocket management that it takes to actually produce all these things out of. We worked really hard on it, and he's doing a marvelous job. Matt is, and it's one of my favorite Easter eggs in the show. Yeah.
All right. So we're looking for the improvised elements, and we're also looking for the Easter eggs. Repeat viewing, if you can, of course.
Yes.
Before we wrap things up, one last very quick question. It's a hard one to answer, but in a sentence or two, what do you think is the timeless appeal of the murder mystery? Why, this was invented over 100 years ago, this game, and we're still talking about it.
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is, we, at whatever time of history we find ourselves in, we deal with the unexpected, what feels unprecedented, what feels like things that are out of our control. And I think the appeal of a murder mystery is when bad things happen, that there's a way to piece together what's going on, what's unknowable, that you can, if you look carefully enough, you can find the truth at what's really going on. And I think there's real fun in that, in being able to look at a bad situation and find the solution and know, I do have the insight to point out the problem and find the solution. Yeah.
Sorry, can you repeat the question again?
You're the clue expert.
Yeah.
What's the timeless appeal of the murder mystery?
I have two ideas about it. One of them has to do with what Lisa said at the preview the other night, which is, are you ready for a night of fun? And that's really how the Segal is approaching it. This is their offering for people. It's June. We made it through a long winter. It's been a long year so far. Here, have some fluff. Have some delightful laughs. Have some entertainment. Have some place where you can come and watch a story and enjoy yourself and have a great time at the theater and let go of the outside world. The murder mystery is so insular that it doesn't deal with a whole ton of external socioeconomic politics. True. It uses it a little bit for world building, but for the most part it is just a good time, and it's to watch these characters lose their minds and have a good time. I personally think that the recipe of the murder mystery, the reason why it's successful, is because it's fun for people to come and watch a group of individuals get stressed in a some sort of can, like a tightening can, like a container. We're just going to keep shrinking that down and crushing you down, providing all the stress we can until they lose it. And the fun is in watching them lose it. The fun is in the release. It's cathartic. It's therapeutic. We aim as human beings to behave relatively well in day to day. So when characters can lose their minds and behave not in that way on stage, it sure is fun. It's a fun form of therapy.
Release and problem solving. People love to solve a puzzle.
Oh, and that's
You
the
win!
other part. It's a game, too.
yelling,
So for those who are into it, following along, tracking evidence, doing the Sherlock Holmes thing, it's a fun interactive experience as well.
Thank you both so much for taking us behind the scenes on this show. It sounds like you're having so much fun. And it's going to be communicated to the audience. And enjoy the run, both of you.
Thank you, Sarah. This was such a delight. Yeah,
Really
thanks for
good
having
time.
us.
Tamara Brown, Mrs. Peacock, and Zach Counsil, our armorer and associate director. That's just the coolest title ever. Thank you to the team at the Segal Center for bringing us together here today. Thank you so much for joining us. Clue on Stage is at the Segal until June 29th. You can get your tickets at segalcenter.org, 514-739-7944.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Backstage Chatter. This will be our last episode of the 2024-2025 season. So until September, keep your candlesticks polished, your alibis airtight, and if anyone asks, I was in the conservatory the whole time.